We're back just a little before noon, trying to make some adjustments here so that I can take care of some things. No, I don't know where it's at. I'll have to figure it out later. Okay. Turn this down just a little bit because you might not be able to hear that, but that'll distract me because it's a little too loud. And I hope you don't ever have an issue of hearing me over my music. If you do, please let me know, and we'll take care of that right away. But we're going to get started here at noon with some knitting. So I'm just going to go over some knitting basics with everyone here. I know I said that I would be on at noon, but I did come on just a little early. I'm always a little early. I did prep a little bit for this one. And I got to find out where my dog is at my feet so I can put my feet down. I always have to keep moving. I'm fidgeting constantly, moving this way and moving that way. But yes, we're going to be doing a little bit of knitting today. I'm starting you off from straight basics. So if you haven't knitted before and you have a set of knitting needles and yarn, you can knit along with us today. Here to help people learn, I want to share this skill and this art so that it doesn't die off, because it's fun. It's therapeutic. It builds self-esteem and self-confidence because you are making beautiful things. And like my little tutorial earlier, my live earlier, if you're coming back from that, I was showing how adding beads can jazz things up. And it's very simply done. People think that it's so awesomely hard to do anything that we're doing, and I'm here to myth bust. Let's call it myth busting. I should put that up here, myth busting at my spot. But we're just going to talk about the different types of needles right now, and I'm going to be using these small circulars today because I do have limited space here that I'm working in, and I don't like to hear the needles clacking on the table. Excuse me. Got a little bit of a cold coming on, I think. Or maybe it's just allergies, seasonal allergies probably. These are two needles that are attached by a cable. Your stitches do run from side to side. You can actually work in the round with these for making, this one here particularly is sized for making hats. I will eventually build up to making hats and things like that, but we're going to work on just basic construction, and we still have 9 more minutes before we will start doing that. But these are the circular needles that I will be using today. And for the worsted weight yarn, it does recommend a size 8. Let me verify that. That's what the size that I always use. Let's see here. Yes, US. I don't know if that's a 8 or a 9. My vision's so bad and I can only see out of one eye. But I'm using an 8 today. For just basic projects like a shawl or a blanket, you don't really need a specific size needle other than the one recommended, because you're going to knit it to size anyway. And it's just going to start out that way. Most people start out with just straight knitting needles. I do believe that these, let me measure here. Yeah, these are 10 inches in length, the standard size knitting needle. And you will work on these. Everybody has these. The technique is the same, because really all you're going to see is this portion of the needle as I'm working anyway. So, you know, having just this little short area here is enough for me to show you the total technique. These here, I had to pull these all together because they were all scattered everywhere. And as some of you, if you are older like myself, will see that these are packaged in a very old package. They don't package them like this anymore, I don't think. Very, very old. These are all 7-inch long. These are double pointed needles for working hats as well. If you get to working a smaller hat and you're doing your decreases at the top, you would be working off of 3 or 4 of these together to make your circle and one to work with. And you would work in the round around these as well. This is for doing smaller stuff, like if you only have, oh yeah, I think it's, I don't even know how many stitches would fit around here, but once it gets smaller to this point to where you're closing off a hat, you can't keep using this. You can use, excuse me, a longer set of cable needles and do what's called the magic loop. And I can demonstrate that later as well. I'll get through all of that as we go through with the knitting basics. Put these back in here. I don't think all of those go in there. So, set those to the side. And these to the side. We still got a couple of minutes. I'll also show you another tool that we use in knitting. It's called a knitting gauge. This will help you do a gauge swatch, which when we get to that later on past the basic stitches, I'll show you all about gauge swatching, why it's important. This will also help you if you don't have markings on these needles as to what size they are. You stick them in here until they don't fit through and go to this one here. You can tell that it doesn't go. It should smoothly slide in. It stops. You go to the next one up. It smoothly slides in. This is a size 8 or 5 millimeter, depending on which measurement you use. This gives both. So this is handy. Also for the gauge swatches, which I'll explain in detail further, and it has to do with clothing and making things to a specific size. Got 5 more minutes. I'm absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much. I didn't think I was. Yeah, or the needle sizes get worn off. I want to make sure that I didn't miss any comments. Thank you for the rose, Mad Love. So I was steady talking and wasn't paying attention to early than never. Yeah. If you're on time, you're late. I've heard that before too. I'm always 10 minutes early. Okay, we've got everybody here, I do believe. I mean, as far as comments. Sarah, I'm teaching the basics of knitting. I did get requests when I was on the live earlier doing crochet techniques that they wanted to see some of the beginner startings of knit and the knit stitches. Knit is a little different than crochet. There's only 2 stitches in knit, unless you want to count the yarn over as a stitch as well. And it's just the manipulation of those stitches that give you the lace and the texture as like in crochet. 2 at a time socks using magic loop. Oof. I did that with a pair of fingerless gloves. And magic loop can be a little daunting sometimes, but it's not that bad once you get the hang of it. Trying to get casted on, oh, that was a real bugger for me. I'm sure with the socks you could probably do Judy's magic cast on between the 2 needles and push it up and have it cast on. But to me, my brain just couldn't conceive that at the time that I had started doing it. And it was fun to be self-taught. Judy's magic cast on is what you use for the sock toe. Yeah. Yeah. Just waiting for 12 o'clock here, so that way we've got everybody who was coming to return. For some of those here that are, while we're still waiting, I did link a bucket hat in my bio. I also linked for Debbie the waffle stitch blanket pattern. That's linked in my bio. Both of those are free patterns, and they were on Pinterest. If you don't have Pinterest, there is an app in the Google Play Store. Download it for free, either on your tablet, on your phone, on your personal computer. Set up your little account with your username and password. And then you can go in there and search for all patterns, recipes, recycled paper crafts. There's all kinds of stuff on there. I've gotten a lot of my dinner prep meals recipes from on Pinterest. Some really good ones. So yeah, I did link those patterns in my bio. And for anybody else who's new here, I do upload all my lives to YouTube. I try to get them done the same day. I don't make you wait like Netflix to the next day. I just have to wait for them to process here on TikTok before I'm able to download them. So I do take all those and transfer them over. So if you do miss anything or need to go back over, it is there where you can rewind and watch as many times as you need to. Please feel free to share my lives. Feel free to share my YouTube videos. The more the merrier. Oh, Riff's back. How you doing, Riff? We're going to help you with some knitting. We're going to help with the knitting. We are almost at 12 o'clock here. My clocks have already chimed. But we are going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to be using these needles today. They're a circular knitting needle, size 8. Most people will start with just a straight pair of knitting needles. You got your needles and your yarn and you're ready to go. Okay, what I'm going to be teaching you today is long tail cast on. Okay. I'm going to try and show you with these circular needles if I can keep that other needle out of the way. Because like I said, I do have limited space here between this desk. I did do a little video before I come back on so you could see behind the scenes at my spot. And you could see my desk from an aerial view and what I use to hold my phone and where I sit and the whole thing. But yeah, it's up for views. But I'm going to show you the long tail cast on. But there was also another cast on that I saw that was like super fast, super amazing. And I'm going to have to find that one again, or I might play around and see if I can't remember it, because I just saw it last week and I thought, man, that's so amazing. Because a lot of times with the long tail cast on, you have to make sure that you have enough of a long tail to start casting on. Some people will do the long tail cast on with the inside of the yarn and the outside of the skein of yarn, so they don't have to cut any off if they overdo it. I've always just pulled out a couple lengths of yarn that looked like it might be about what I need and then just started to cast on. It's what's comfortable for me. If I have too much, I'll pull the cast off and do it again. If I don't have enough, I'll redo it. I don't have a problem with that. I am going to have to adjust this camera up a little bit to give me enough space so that you can see what I'm doing. And I can see what I'm doing so I show you properly. Over to this side, I have the skein of yarn. To this side, I have my cut end here. My cut end I always keep closest to me when I do it over my fingers, and I will show you here. I just take my yarn, the skein being to this side, the cut end being closest to me. I drape it over my finger and my thumb, my index finger and my thumb. So it's like this. Okay, and then these two here on the end, I will grab together like this. So I'm holding it just like this in my hand. this piece being closest to me coming over my thumb, this piece going to the working skein of yarn over my index finger. And that's how they lay in my hand, just like that. Okay, I'm going to pull this down a little bit further. I wanted you to see which way the yarn was going so that you have it proper for this cast on. Okay, now holding it like this, we're going to put our first stitch on by taking, and if you're looking at your hands, this is how you're going to look at it because you're not going to be looking down at the top. You're going to take your knitting needle, and this one is probably going to get in my way a little too much. You're going to go straight down between your hand and the string. Point your needle straight down. Push it against the string and turn it so that it is facing upwards. That'll be your first stitch. Okay? You will count that as your first stitch. Now there's a little saying that goes along with this, and you see that I'm holding the yarn. It's almost like a slingshot. For those of you who know a slingshot, it resembles a slingshot. You're going to come to the fatty palm of your hand here, and you're going to run your needle up your thumb, which catches the outer edge of that string there. Okay? Then you're going to take your needle over to your fingertip and run it down your fingertip, which catches the outer string of that one. You're going to come back over here and run it down your thumb, which runs it back down inside, and you can see the loop on the needle at this point. Here, I drop my thumb, and then I bring my thumb back down under to the string that I just dropped, and I slowly tighten that up. Okay? You don't want to tighten it too tight because you want this to slide easily without any restriction. This is where your tension comes in. If it doesn't slide, you're going to have a hard time getting your needle in there to make your next stitch. Okay? So I'm going to grab these up again. Just put your fingers in between the two, spread them back out, collect the loose ones at the bottom. Okay? Again, we're going to go coming from this way. Bring the needle towards you to the bottom of your thumb and come up, and you'll grab, not in my ring, but the string there. Come over to your fingertip, go down. You'll catch that inside string there. Come back over to your thumb, run down your thumb, and you have your third stitch there. Drop your thumb, and you're going to catch this string right here and just snug it right up. You have now 3 stitches on your hook. Hopefully everybody is okay. I'll show you this a few more times. Again, if you're sitting with your hands in front of you, you're looking at it just like this. So I'm going to turn my hand just a little bit when I go to my finger so you can see what I'm doing. Okay? You're going to go up your thumb, down your finger, come up and go back down your thumb. Okay? I'm going to give everybody a second. If anybody's having any problems, please shout out in the comments. Can I see this again? One more time. I'll show you again. Yes, it is different than starting with a slip knot. You're actually starting in the middle of a section of yarn, and you are working both, and you are interlocking the pieces together. This is called the long tail cast on. Now, you can do it with a slip knot, and that was the one that I saw last week. This is the one that I've been using since I learned how to knit. And there's a lot of other patterns. This one will give you a nice finished edge because you can see here if you turn your work upside down, you've got a nice little trim finished edge on there. That's why I always use this one. There's many different ones, and they use different cast-ons for different reasons. Yeah, the short end of the yarn will get shorter. It's supposed to, because that's the one that's locking in the loops. That's why it's called long tail. You want to make sure you got a long enough tail to cast on, the stitches. These needles I'm using are just a pair of circular needles. Yeah, these are just circulars. They're connected with a cable. They're a little more flexible if you have limited space that you're working in, like I am. These work good. These are for making hats, basically working in the round, in like a tube. So I could use these to make a cowl. You could use these to make a hooded scarf if you're starting from the neck down. Turtlenecks on sweaters, you could use these because you're working in the round. It used to be double pointed was as big as you got for a circle. Then they started out putting the cables between the needles. You can actually work blankets on these side to side, just like you would turn your work with regular straight needles. It just gives you a longer needle without having like a long stick that you've got to wiggle around. It just has a cable. That's why. Different projects need different types of needles, and I'm just trying to keep this other one out of the way, and it's not doing it. It's not staying out of the way, so we're just going to have to let it lay there. Yeah, it does stretch better when you're doing ribbing. Yeah, and that's mostly what I cast on. Everything I cast on's got ribbing on it. Sweaters. I've done ribbing on cable blankets. It just when you do the knit two, purl two rib, and then a cable comes off from that, it just looks nicer, I think. So I've done that too with cable blankets, baby buntings, same cast on. Yeah. But I'm going to do a couple more. I'll do a couple more stitches. And as you do this, this just becomes more fluid. I demonstrate it that way because people can understand up the thumb, trying to grab this yarn and grab this yarn, and you've got 3 or 4 strings here. It's a little harder to teach that. So that's why I demonstrate it. I'm getting tangled up here. That's why I demonstrate it that way, to go up the thumb. So you see that it grabs that string. But when I get to doing it, I just string, and pull. And it just flows right on through. It doesn't look anything like thumb, finger, thumb when I'm doing it. So we've got... So I got 12 stitches on here. You guys can practice that and do it, till it feels good. That if you think that, do 3 or 4 stitches, pull it off, start over again. Do 3 or 4 cast 3 or 4 stitches on, pull it off, try it again. So that way, you're not casting on and say, okay, I got it. And then you go and do a couple rows of knit and you forgot how to do the cast on. Now, I wish that I could remember that other one. Give me a second here, because I'm going to pull this right off and I'm going to try it with a slip knot. Because there's very many different ways. For those of you that... crochet, there's all different... I don't know why I said crochet. Provisional cast on is done with a crochet chain. And you go through that chain, which keeps those stitches live for like doing an infinity scarf. So once you get to the other end, you bind off both stitches at the same time. So you have a seamless, what looks like from the outside, seamless infinity scarf. So you have to do that specific cast on. Otherwise, you don't have live stitches to hook to. Hi, Zen. How are you? Hello, everybody. We're doing a little bit of knit basics, and let me see if I can't And this is exactly, I think, what they did. I did a slip knot onto here. I pick it up just like I would, like I showed you. You're going to have your finger over here and your thumb here. And I just hold this like this. And I think what she actually did was just twist this around to where you have that loop there. And that's exactly what she did. That way you only got a little teeny tiny tail, and I'll show you this way again. If you want to pull off what you've already cast on, you can do that, or you can just watch and I'll show you this way as well. This underneath of here, if you take this and these two fingers, take these two fingers and come right up underneath of here like this, then take your needle and stick it right here like this, and then just snug that up on there. You've got a cast on. Now, I don't know how nice the edge is on this because I haven't really used it. It does slide if you don't pull it too tight. You have to make sure here that I've got, you see how I've got a little gap in my stitches? I left a little longer loop down here in between the stitches. Or it might just be from my knot. Probably is. Yeah, that's just from my knot holding that space. But I'll show you that again. These two fingers hold this yarn, these two, underneath like this, so that it's basically wrapped around the back side of those fingers with your needle in here like this. Just take and grab your string here and let go. And then just gently snug that up. You still want it to be able to slide freely, so you don't want to snug it too tight. So that's another cast on. Okay. And you just twist it on like this. Now my mother, she used to take the knitting needle, stand it up between her lower part of her thigh, and she'd loop, and I don't know how the heck she cast on like that. And she tried to teach it to me, and I couldn't do it. So I found the long tail cast on, and that's what I did. But we'll put a couple more on here. That does give you, yeah, I think this does give you a flatter edge than the other, looking at it. But yep. Now, from here, we're going to turn our work. And thank you for the follow. Evil Mastermind. Ooh. Okay. We got somebody very creative amongst us, I do believe. Magic Chipmunk. Welcome, welcome. Is that Kyler Boo? Welcome. We're going to start doing a knit stitch if you guys are ready. If anybody is still casting on, practicing, I'll give you a second or two. And then we'll start on with the knit stitches. And I am going to have to show you a knit stitch. I'm going to have to show you how to identify between, because we're going to be knitting every row, which is going to give us what they call a garter stitch, which has got the little lumpies on both sides. Then I'll teach you the purl stitch, and then I'll have to teach you how to identify between the two. I saw Hessel Life in here. Hey, honey, how are you? What you working on today? We're doing some knit basics. Well, Kyla Boo, I am here to teach you how to knit. I'm going to strive to go live every day. If you cannot make the time that I am on live, I do upload my videos to my YouTube channel. There is a link directly in my TikTok profile so that you can get to my YouTube channel. And I do try to get them uploaded the same day. I haven't got the one uploaded from this morning. It was all crochet, but I will. And I will make sure to put a description in there as to what all we covered. So that way, if there's not anything in there that you need, you don't have to watch if you don't want to. But do feel free to share my lives. Oh, thanks for all the gifts, guys. Hessa Life, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and start with the knit stitch. And if everyone's ready, I don't see anyone saying, hold up, wait a minute. All right, we're going to continue on then. So, the YouTube is directly in the link is directly, it's in my bio. It will take you directly to it. But it is The Yarnologist, all lowercase. But there are a couple of yarnologists on there. But I do use the same logo as I have here, the little balls of yarn with the knitting needles in them. Okay, so we're going to spread these stitches out a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to do the knit stitch. So, for the knit stitch, you're going to take this needle here, and it's going to go to the left side of the stitch. This is the one we're going to work right here. So we're going to go to the left side of the stitch, and we're going to stick this in this loop that's going around this needle. So in this loop right here, we're going to come in through right there. So in through the front side, and this is why you want to make sure that you don't have this row done too tight, because you got to get this needle in here as well. This one might not be too hard to stretch out because you're right on the end, but the rest of them aren't going to stretch very well. Okay? And you don't need to get it in there very far, just enough to wrap your yarn around. And we're going to wrap this counterclockwise. Okay? And the needle goes to the back. This needle that we're working on is in the back. We're going to wrap it counterclockwise around this way. And then we're going to bring this down here like this, because we're going to let this needle help us keep this down here so we don't lose that loop that we're trying to make. I take this needle and I let it trace the needle here all the way down, just like I let it touch all the way through. And you'll see when we come through here that we are going to drag that stitch through with our needle. Okay? Once we get to this point, the stitch that we just worked through can come off the end of the needle. Okay? I'm working this really, really slowly for those of you who are just now starting. Okay? We're going to show you that again. Again, very slowly. We're going to take the needle in my right hand, and we're going to put it to the left of the stitch that we want to work. And we're going to go through underneath. See it come through there. All right, work it up just a little bit. We're going to wrap it counterclockwise. Okay. And then this needle is going to stay touching the other one the whole way through. And you'll see it there. That way you don't lose your stitch. And this just shows you the technique of doing a knit stitch. This is how my mother taught me when I was younger, and it made sense. Visually being able to see where these needles are, where it's touching, where it's not touching, because you see people doing this or doing this, which stretches your stitches out. Okay, I'm going to show you some of the uh-ohs. So now some people might have been taught a different version of the knit stitch, but this is the one that I was taught. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one so we can move past what I just showed you, that little uh-oh. That sometimes will work itself back out, but you don't want to stretch your work. You want to keep to the top of the needles. And I will show you some other techniques and tricks that I do. I hold these stitches back with this finger here. So that way I can use my thumb to push my working stitch forward. My needles are being held in these two fingers down here. This one has the yarn in the pinky and pretty much sometimes the ring finger as well, but I'm holding this needle with these two fingers and this one underneath. So when I pull this stitch forward, I'm holding my hand here as a stopper so it doesn't go off the end of the needle. Because while you're trying to push this in here, you will push this stitch up, up, up. So I keep this here on the back side as a stopper. So my stitch doesn't go anywhere because I'm holding it against the needle. Okay? As I go through, I'm staying contacted with the other needle. Even when I come up over here, it's still touching. Even up the back, it's still touching. Counterclockwise wrap. Give it a little tight when you bring it down this way, but when you start to pull up, you'll see that this yarn is going to advance with my stitch. That there is tension. If your yarn doesn't advance when you're taking your stitch off, you're going to pull it too tight. Okay? So again, these fingers are holding these. This one's holding this one. You see where everything is at. In through the left side. Got it stretched out a little bit. And I'm looking through the camera view, which is making it kind of hard. Counterclockwise wrap. And then still touching all the way through. Okay, knit stitch. A lot of people will just show you the stitch. They won't tell you how they're holding the yarn, which gives you an idea of what pretty much all your fingers are going to be doing something. All of my fingers are doing something every time that I knit. Okay, now one thing I'm going to show you too, as you knit, this last stitch is going to be super duper tight, so I do it right on the end, but I make sure to push it all the way back here past where the beveled edges of my knitting needle is, so I get a true size 8 loop. Okay, I always push it back down to this end before I snug up if this has gotten wonky. I always make sure it's back down here, because if you are way up here on the end of your needles like this and you tighten this up, this one's going to be super smaller than these. So always make sure you get back to the fattest part of your needle before you snug up your stitch. That'll help with tension. Okay? Tension is the main issue for people who want to start knitting. Tension takes time. And I tell people, practice on a scarf. Get you a fluffy little yarn, like the velvet yarn or whatever, and practice on a scarf. The wonky edges, if you miss a couple of stitches, don't make a difference when you got fuzzy, lumpy yarn, because they do that sometimes anyway, just because they're fuzzy. So, for beginners, sometimes a little chunkier yarn would be better, but you have to be mindful of your tension because it can get way out. So what I will show you very quickly, I don't know if I'll be able to show it too well on this side, but on the other side I will, maybe here on these last 3 stitches. A knit stitch, when you look at it, yeah, you make rope for a living. Yeah, tension is really important with ropes. Really important. That tension has to do with their tensile strength, how much weight they can hold. But on this side, and this will be on the knit side, you see that these stitches are kind of going on a diagonal pattern. On a regular knit, on the end, you see how this looks like a V. You have 2 sticks with one coming out above it. This here would be, of course, that's just the cast-on row. We don't never count the cast-on row as one, unless the designer indicates. Oh, Pink Witch wants to come in. Let's let her in. Let's see. Are you asking to come in? Now it's telling me to invite you. I don't know if I'm doing this right or not. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe TikTok did that. But this would be a knit stitch right here. Looks just like this, a V. Now, a knit stitch is nothing but the reverse. So when I turn this over, even though we haven't done a purl stitch yet, you're going to see a purl stitch. Because the back side of a knit stitch is exactly that, a purl stitch. Purl stitches have little dashes that go the same way, parallel to your knitting needle. See here the little straight lines? That is what a purl stitch looks like. It has these little lumps. Okay? A knit stitch has V's underneath of it. These are a little harder to see because it is the cast on row. But it'll look just like this, little V's. Now, when I go to do this next row, you're not going to see it because I'm going to be knitting again. So you're going to see it's going to look lumpy like this. The rest of it's going to look lumpy with a little gap between. So I'm going to show you again the knit stitch. And we'll probably do a couple more rows of just knit so I can show you what the garter stitch looks like. Garter stitch is multiple rows where you knit every row. You knit this one, you turn it, you knit it again. That's called garter stitch. Almost like the same with crochet where they say waffle stitch. You have to do a certain structure of stitches to get that waffle design. So to get the garter stitch design, you have to knit every row. So I'm going to go ahead here and again, we're going to the left side of the stitch that we're working. We're going to go in from underneath and up through the back, counterclockwise wrap, and then pull that through for the stitch. And we just got a question. Do you always have to flip which hand has the stitches to continue? Yes. You will work them. I'm right-handed, so I work off the left needle to the right hand. Then when I get done, I flip it over. I will give you that instruction. I'm sorry because I didn't even give you that instruction to flip it over. Thank you for questioning because that probably did confuse the heck out of every new knitter right here, right now. So we're going to go through this row and yes, I appreciate you pointing that out because I'm sure I did just flabbergast a whole bunch of people by not saying what I was doing. So we're going to go to the left side of the stitch, underneath and through, counterclockwise wrap. Another thing that I'm not telling you guys too when I do this, another structural aspect of the knitting technique. In through the left, through the back. When I let go of this right-handed needle to do my counterclockwise wrap, I am pinching both of these needles with these two fingers. So that way you get a little technical aspect of what I'm doing. Do the counterclockwise wrap. I'm grabbing a hold of these again and letting go of that other needle. The thumb's going back to these stitches. It's going to push this one forward, and then my finger is going to assist this needle out, off. Thumb's going to push this up. This one's going to grab. And it's almost like a machine. I do everything very tactily when I'm teaching. So you see what my fingers are doing. All this little under stuff going on under here, you don't know what that is if I don't tell you. And you're not visually in the room to be getting a different view other than what I'm giving you. So I'm try to show you everything that I'm doing. So again, the knit stitch to the left, in and underneath. And if you watch my fingers, you'll see all this going on at the same time. I slowed down a little bit so you could see it, but that's what I'm doing every one. You keep your working. I got a question. How do you prevent it from stretching so far? I'm working up on the very edges of my needles. Okay, I'm not worried that my stitches are going to fall off because I'm holding the stitches back with this index finger. It's not, no matter what I do, it's not going to get off of there. So I don't have any need to really ply these apart to get them to do what I need them to do. Okay, and as far as holding these stitches back, they're not coming off if I keep tension on this string right here. You know, I can move this all around. As long as I keep the tension on this string right here, they're not coming off of there unless I yank the needle out of it, which would take a good little bit considering that I'm holding that fairly tight. And as you see, I'm basically just working. I'm working just like this, around this needle and off. When I go in, I go down, in, up, wrap my yarn, come back down, around, and off. So I'm working in a very small little space. So there doesn't have to be, oh, you're very welcome. Sarah, you're very welcome. But, you know, I'm working in a very small area, so I can keep this all here because I have control of everything with my fingers. So really, this is the only area that I need to be moving in this little square box right here. Unlike crochet where, you know, that hand is like all over everywhere. So, you know, and a lot of knitters, once they get to going, I mean, it's all, you're only working on millimeters worth of wood right here. That's it. So, again, for the knit stitch, and if you watch, it's just all right here, the top inch. The top inch is all I'm working on. Counterclockwise wrap, down and through. Again to the left side of the stitch and through. Counterclockwise, and then off. So it's not, you know, I did have issues with stretching, you know. What I would do as a beginning knitter is I would always be trying to stab and do all of, you know, it's all just very fluid, soft, easy movements right here. Just right in this area. You don't, I mean, you're only working on this part of your needles ever. Right there. The rest of it is just for holding. Counterclockwise wrap simply because some people might wrap it the other way. It's not necessarily the way it has to be. When you wrap it counterclockwise, it gets trapped up underneath of this needle. When you wrap it that way and pull the knit stitch off. When you wrap it clockwise, which would be this way, you can do it that way as well. It's just tighter. And as you can see, it's twisted the stitch a different way, I think. Let me do a couple more that way where we wrap it clockwise. Clockwise goes this way. And see if it changes the look of the stitch. No, not really. So yeah, you can do it whichever way you prefer. You can still see the V's underneath of there. They're all the same. I just wrap it counterclockwise because that's the way I was taught. Plus, it's a little easier. It seems to me it stretches better because when you wrap it clockwise, yeah, I've got all this friction here that I got to pull against to get my stitch loose. That's probably why I don't do it that way. When you wrap it counterclockwise, you pretty much already have your loop stretched because you've went all the way around the needle, right? And it comes off a little easier. Doesn't seem to give any different look to the V-stitch underneath, but it does have a friction difference. Because, and I'll show you that again as to why. And again, when we do the knit stitch, the yarn is to the back. That's another thing I forgot to tell you. Yes, because when you do it, let me do it this way first. Now it's even tighter trying to get it in from this way. Oof, it's almost like a twisted knit. Yeah, it makes it harder to get in from the other side too. But when you go this way, and then you have to kind of pull your whole loop through, it does make it a tighter tension trying to get it back through that way. Yeah, try it if you're not a beginning knitter. Try it the other way. Try wrapping it counterclockwise and pay attention when you pull that stitch through and see if it doesn't feel different. Maybe it, see if it doesn't feel different. You can do it that way. It doesn't change. See how tight it's making it? Trying to come back through. That might be the problem. I mean, you can do it that way, but you have to knit loose. I would recommend that for a loose knitter who's trying to achieve tension. That might help them achieve tension. So that's probably why they do it that way, I'm assuming. But I did notice that it did tighten that up a good bit. But as you can see here, we've done all knit rows. Oh, I hope you feel better. COVID's terrible. I've had it twice already. Once on New Year's Eve in 2021, and then again in Christmas on 2022. I was so upset. Well, I'm glad that I'm able to help you loosen up that tension a little bit. It makes you feel better about your work. You don't have to struggle so much to get the stitches through. I'm going to show you every aspect of what I do, good, bad, or otherwise, because I want you to realize that even though I've got 40 plus years of knitting and crocheting experience, I still find easier ways to do what I'm doing because I watch somebody else do it, and I will definitely share easier ways because I'm all about working smarter, not harder. But, you know, ooh. Oh, Mother's Day. That's terrible. COVID on Mother's Day. Hey, but if that's how you got to get it to put your feet up for the day, but that's awful hard. I hate for anybody to be sick. I really do. Yeah. Busy mom's working on a small blanket, but you've done small washcloths. Yeah. Yeah. But yes, I do hope you feel better. But again, this is called the garter stitch. When you have multiple rows where you just knit, it's garter stitch. And you will have these little purl ridge bumps with a gap in between. And it just gives you a little bit of texture. And this is looking at it straight down. If you look at it from the needles, you can see that front side, back side, it looks the same. So this is the garter stitch. How to hold the working yarn? Yes, I sure can. When I am working, I have it looped over my hand. If I'm warm, this is how I'm holding it, just like this. I have these two fingers here to hold tension, mostly my pinky. It just runs through what little hole I create right there. Now, if I feel like I'm gripping too tight and I'm starting to cramp my hand up, I will put these two up and hold it lighter, these two fingers here, and use those two to create tension, but hold it lighter. This here just controls me being able to wrap my stitches. If it's cold and my tension is really loose, I will wrap it around my pinky and then hold it like this. So that way, you know, just like that. But I'll wrap it around my pinky for extra tension, like if my hands are cold. But if I'm warm, my hands are a little more moist. I wouldn't say sweaty, but they're a little more moist. And the yarn seems to kind of slow down on the warmer skin than it does cold. So, and that's how I hold my working yarn, just like that. But for today, even though it's cold outside and raining, I just have it just like that. And I get a little tighter grip on it here. Do another knit row. Are you a left-hander? Is that Misto one? Oh, you're right-handed. I can knit with both hands. I'm actually working on some when I do color work. I have, and I can show you that, but that would confuse you. So we're not going to show you that right now. I'll show you some of my talents later on. But are you guys comfortable with the knit stitch? If we are, I'll go ahead and I'll show you the purl stitch, which is the only other stitch unless you count the yarn over. And I can show you yarn overs too. It all depends on what stitch you're going to do next as to which way you wrap. Now, I want you to notice, I want to do one more row, and I'm going to really definitely show you the mechanics of everything. My yarn is to the back, okay? I can do this several times. I mean, I don't mind going over a little knitter basics for anybody who needs it. I mean, I don't want to just say, okay, anybody after this date, I'm not going to teach because we're on to the next spot. I do want to share every aspect of my talent with anybody who wants to. If you're not currently ready for basic knitting because I just threw it all on you at my live earlier today, or you just jumped in tonight, or this afternoon, I mean. It's so dreary out here. It looks like night. And you need time to get your materials together. Once you got your materials together, just hit me up with a message here on TikTok and say, hey, can you do some knit basics? And I'll jump on a live and do knit basics when you're available. Just let me know what time frame you have, throughout the week. Because due to health issues that are way outside of my control with several autoimmune diseases, I'm not able to do this every day. But I'm going to try to do it as much as I can because it brings me such joy. Especially when I've got people commenting and asking questions. Oh, you've had the needle set and never knew how to use them. The circular needles, Caroline, or just knitting needles in general. I can show the cast on if Karen, if you have the materials. I'll redo the cast on. So I'm sure there's several people who would like to do that. Yeah, you can use them just like straight needles, Caroline, the circular knitting needles. You can use them just like straight needles. They just accommodate more stitches. They're more flexible than straight needles. You can use them for working in the round where you connect together and you have stitches all the way around for doing like tube type scarves or hats, gloves, things like that. They have even smaller ones. I mean, I'm talking they're like this and the needles are about that big and they hurt my hands to even look at them. I do have some though, and I have used them. Oh. Yeah, the circular needles is pretty much what I work with now, and my husband bought me 2 sets of the Chiagu 60-inch long cables. I have a size 4 and a size 6. I needed those for some blankets that I were making, and the cable's 60 inches long. You can make some killer blankets with those, and I'm planning on it. So... But yeah, I don't know. Would you like to see the cast on again? I'll show you again and work through with you. I have no problem. I'll just jump over here onto a set of these and put some stoppers on the end so I don't... If you have these needles and you don't have straight knitting needles and you want to knit, these are double pointed needles. Okay? You just stick your stopper on there and you have a short, straight knitting needle. There's no need to be going and buying 10-inch needles and 14-inch needles. If you've got some double pointed, just throw some stoppers on them. These are long enough to make scarves and mittens and every darn it thing on. So I got I got plenty of yarn here to start. So we'll do this cast on again. All right. I think that, do you want to see the long tail cast on, Karen, or the other one? Is it Karen? I think it was Karen. Yes, Karen. I can show you the one with the slip knot. And I do the slip knot the same way I do for crochet and knitting. I hold the yarn right here between my ring finger and my thumb, and I wrap these 2 fingers. Okay? So we're just going to wrap these 2 fingers like this, make an X on this side. We flip it over, we got 2 lines, and I hold it between these 2 right here. Go underneath of this one, grab this one. Oops, don't go off camera. When I grab this one, I pull it through the middle and then I twist just so I keep it on there. I let go of everything, snug it up, and you got a slip knot. I don't know if that makes easy slip knots for everybody or not. Okay, now what you're going to do from here, you're going to grab a hold of this yarn with these 2 fingers down here. You can even go these 3. So you got these 2 fingers right here. You're going to take and put your thumb and finger underneath of there like that and bring it back around. So basically you've just wrapped your thumb and finger with yarn. I try to keep it up to the top 2 knuckles up there. Okay? Now you just go under your thumb and into that loop and tighten that loop up on your knitting needle. You effectively have 2 stitches now on your knitting needle. One from your slip knot and one here that you just put on. Again, grab the yarn with these 3. Wrap all of these just so that you get the technique. Once you get the idea of how this works, you won't have to do all that wrap doo-dah. You'll just be able to grab it. And then you're going to go underneath of this one right here. Thank you so much for the roses. Who was that? Underworld. And then just slip it off and snug it up just a little bit. If you're worried about how snug you're making your cast on, take your fingers just under the bottom, and you can just grab these 2 stitches, the 2 pieces of yarn right here. You should be able to slide it up and down that needle without resistance. If you can do that, you know you're not snugging it up too tight. Now, if you have bulges out from underneath of here, from these where you're doing this on the bottom, you're not snugging it up enough. Okay, so you want to make sure you don't have bulges on the bottom, and you want to make sure, and you can see I'm down underneath the stitches. They're sliding up and down that needle just as free as they want to be. Okay, so that'll help with your cast on tension, making sure your cast on tension. Also, make sure you come back onto the fattest part of your knitting needle before you snug it up. You don't want to snug it up down here because this is way thin. You definitely won't have a hard time shoving it back down here to put the next stitch on, and you're not going to get your other needle in. Okay, now for the long tail cast on. This one is pretty simple, and it does pretty much come out like the long tail cast on, but it's not as lumpy bumpy underneath of here because you're pretty much just taking and making a loop just like this and putting it right on there is what you're doing. You're just taking, and you can do it just like this. Take your yarn, twist it, make a loop, and put it on there. You just have to make sure that this yarn is on the inside and not the outside. So when you take it and twist your loop, see how the yarn that's going back to the skein is on the inside and not this way on the outside. So that way the friction, when this one snugs up to this one, it keeps it there. So there's another way. Just give it a little twist. This is a way you can teach kids to do it. Give it a little twist, stick it through there, snug it up. It's basically exactly what you're doing by having it wrapped around your fingers. You're just using your fingers to twist it up. So we all learned something new together today. How about that? And that's a heck of a lot easier. Just give it a twist. I'll do it just like that. I'll twist it with my thumb. Faster way. The difference between a purl stitch and a knit stitch. I just showed the knit stitch. Did you see the knit stitch that I demonstrated? Oh, y'all are so very welcome. I can show you on here really quickly. I just do a row real quick, and I can show you the difference between the 2 stitches. Because all I have to do is one, because the back side of a knit is a purl. They're just reversed. That's all. Trying to get through here. The cast on row is always going to be a little more fiddly trying to get it done. I don't care how long you've been knitting It's a little more fiddly than the rest of the rows simply because you don't have anything hanging out there underneath to kind of help assist you. And the stitch is going to be a little tighter. So, and that last stitch always is because all the stretch was done given to every other stitch along the way. Okay, now the difference between a knit stitch and a purl stitch. Okay, let me get this so I can pull this down here. On a knit stitch, get this to focus in, you will have what looks like little V's underneath of your stitches. You see those little V's with the stitch around the needle coming out of the middle? Like this here on the end. You can see it a little better here on the end. That's what a knit stitch looks like. And I'm getting some comments here. I don't want to miss anybody's comments. I've been here. I'm new to TikTok. I've been teaching class on Tuesday morning. I've been doing a lot more lives here lately, so that's probably why you found me. But I'm glad that you did. I know you would have eventually. But, yes. Yeah, purl stitch, little V's. Are you in here again, Brooksy? What are you doing? Thank you for the roses. Now, a purl stitch, when you look at a purl stitch, it's going to look just like this. Okay? Trying to get that camera to zoom in on the purl stitch. You will see a little dash underneath of the stitch on the needle. It's parallel to the needle itself. This is a purl stitch. And you notice I did knit stitch on the other side, but when you flip it over, it is a purl stitch. Oh. So, yes, I'm here to help anybody learn how to knit, crochet. You know how to knit, you want to learn how to crochet, I gotcha. You know how to crochet, you want to learn how to knit, I gotcha. So I might have to do a couple more classes and have one pretty much just for knitting and one just for crochet. So because Tuesday, I do it in the morning. I'll have to let me know what time you guys are available. And I can set my schedule up so that I can, well, thank you for the good job. Well, if you want to learn, I'm here to help you learn. Yep. But that's the purl stitch there with the little dashes. And then the knit stitch looks like little V's underneath. You can see them better when you're not on the cast on row. So what I'm going to do now, if everybody's okay with the knit stitch, I'll demonstrate how to do the purl stitch. Well, you got to have the right teacher. And when I do you do YouTube tutorials as well? I do all of my lives on TikTok because I simply learned how to do lives on TikTok. I've never done a live on YouTube. But I do post all of my lives from TikTok to YouTube. So that, TikTok only holds on to them for 90 days. After that, they're gone. But I upload them to YouTube, so they're there forever. So, yeah, I think this is the best way to teach, where you're actually looking at the needles as if you were doing the work itself, and to just be really tactical about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Not just showing you where to put the needle and how to do the stitch with the needles. I'm letting you know what my hands are doing as well and why they're doing it, which helps stuffed animals. Yes, I do amigurumi, and I do them in knit and crochet. So if you find a pattern that's knit that you would like to do, or a pattern that's crochet because you lean more to crochet, I can help you with either one. Currently, I am helping Minnie Donkey Lover with a double knit blanket. I'm working it along with her. Some of the members in my class have wanted to do a sweater, so I'm working a comfy cardigan with them. And I have a smoker's jacket going on with that I'm making for my husband right now. A Ronald Weasley blanket for mindless knitting for myself. It's just knitted squares of different colors, diagonal knitting. And, I got another fingerless glove I have to finish for a set. I've got like 7 or 8 projects going. And most of them, all of them except for the smoker's jacket, are helping other people with patterns. So, yeah, I like to help other people. My YouTube name is The Yarnologist. And I use the same little icon as the one here in TikTok. I do have a link in my profile for directly to my YouTube. And there's links in there for my Instagram and also for my Facebook Messenger if you need to contact me directly and need to send pictures or whatever of whatever you're having a problem with, and I can help you that way too. Teddy bears, baby dolls. Oh, I have done teddy bears, dinosaurs. I'm not sure if all the amigurumi I've done is in TikTok, but I know most of it is in Instagram. All of them are pictured there. I've done unicorns. I've done a little baby doll that's done up in a unicorn outfit. And yeah, I've done a good bit. I've done a bluebird. One of my grandkids wanted a bluebird, an owl, a lion, a zebra. And I'm not sure, but I think I've done teddy bears out of pom-poms. So, yeah, teddy bears out of pom-poms. Now, I'm going to go back over to these other needles since we've got that cast on, and I'm going to demonstrate the purl stitch. And it is going to give a little different on the back for this first row because there's going to be a little more of a gap when we go to do the next rows. Now, as you remember, the knit stitch, we're going to bring out the one stitch that we're working on here. We went to the left side of the stitch to go in. For a purl stitch, you are going to bring your yarn to the front. So I'm going to hold it right here in the front. Okay? And you're going to go in from the right side of the stitch. You're going to go right in that little spot right there. Okay? And you're going to come to the front of the needle. Okay? The knit stitch was to the back. Now you're coming to the front of the needle. And we've went through our circular needle, but we're okay. Now, because your yarn's in the front, again, we're going to counterclockwise wrap. And then pull through. I'll show you that again. Okay? In from the right and to the front. Again, these fingers are still holding everything that they're holding. These are going to pinch so I can wrap. Counterclockwise wrap. I'm pulling snug on this yarn. I'm not letting it, as I'm pulling back, I'm keeping it fairly tight. Now I'm going to let go of my tension. You see the yarn break loose right there? And I'm going to allow that to go down on here. Okay? Next stitch. In from the right to the front. Counterclockwise wrap. If you watch my yarn right here, you'll watch my tension break. I've got, and I'm actually using this too to help apply tension as I pull this stitch down. This yarn is not going to move until I break through. Now I'm going to let go of the tension right here. See, let go of the tension. And then I can get that to slide down there very gently. Now I can snug back up on this. Okay? There's your tension. Okay? In from the right. Same with the knit stitch. When I went through the loop, keeping the needles touching so that we know the technique there. Once I got to here, I let go of this tension. Okay? Everybody focuses so much on what's going on over here that they're not paying attention to the tension being released and when it's being released as I go to come out from here and slide it down so that it's got room to stretch. Okay? Show you that again. In from the right to the front. Counterclockwise wrap. Again, putting that tension on there, right here. We're going to put that tension on there. We're going to hold that tight. This string is not going to budge. Okay? You can see me pulling this way, and I'm not letting that string budge until that needle gets through that loop. Then you see my middle finger let loose, tension lets loose. So that way this can stretch to the size it needs to. So that way I don't have to do a whole lot of this and a whole lot of pulling this back to get it right. Your tension is all done as you're coming through that loop. Okay, I'll show you that again. Tighten that up right here. As you wrap, when you come back down from that wrap, it gets tight right there. And my hand does drop down further on the needle than when it was up here because I'm holding that tension as I'm going through that loop. Now I'm through the loop, so I'm going to let go of that tension so that it'll slide down. And it basically sizes itself to the needle. You don't have to do a whole lot of making sure that it's going to do what it needs to do. Now, if you want to knit tighter, you can hold that tension a little tighter as you come through the loop. Okay? But you have to regulate your tension, and it should be the same the whole way through your project. Okay? Now on this back side, you're going to see that the gap between here is not as big, okay? Because we just did 2 purl rows together. And on the other side, you're going to notice that you're going to have 2 knit rows together when I flip this over right underneath the needles. Because we effectively did 2 purl rows together and we have 2 knit rows over here. And you can see the V's under the stitches a little bit better. Okay? Now, so that you can see these stitches properly and how to count these stitches. Okay, if you forget how many rows you've done. All right, I'm going to try and roll this around my hand and get it to focus in on just this here. Come on, sharpen up. I'm seeing too much of the background. When I want it to sharpen up, it won't. But let's stretch this out here a little bit. All right, come on. Underneath this stitch is a hole, little hole. There we go. You can see the little hole here. Here's 1 knit stitch. Here's 2 knit stitches. And here on the needle is the 3rd knit stitch. So we have done, if we were counting these rows, 1, 2, and then you count the stitch on your needle, which is 3. That's how you would count your rows for a knit stitch. I always count my rows on the knit stitch side because my vision's really bad. I cannot count them on the purl side. And to count garter stitches, you might as well. You have to count those by ribs. Okay? And this is what they call a garter rib. This here and this here. And that would count as 2 rows. This is 1, this is 2. This is 3, this is 4. Each of these bumps, when you have 2 staggered like that, that's 2 rows. And then these 2 staggered here like that, that's 2 more. Now, to count rows on just the purl side, you would be looking at this. And of course, this is easy to count. You've got 1, 2. Because they'll stack on top of each other with a little space in between. But when you get more than 3 or 4 rows, they all kind of start blending together for me with my eyesight. So it's hard to see, especially with these back here. You want to count these 2, and you're not supposed to. So that's why I always count from the knit side. It's just easier to count. Because you can actually count the little holes where the loop actually comes through. 1, 2, and then always the one on the needles. Yeah, I think I got the camera on automatic. Oh, I make you want to start knitting again. Root of all beers, you would like to see the Tunisian simple stitch. Okay. We will squeeze that in if you're still in here. Give me a holler and say, are you still here? If the person is left-handed, it is hard for me to teach left-handed knitting, but I can knit with my left hand. So what I'm going to do, normally I would start from this side because I've worked all these stitches over to this side. And then when I get to the end of the row, I'm going to turn my work and start knitting from this side. But for a left-handed knitter, it's opposite. So they knit from this way. So let's see if I can't do a purl stitch left-handed. We do need to have our stuff to the front. Okay, and it's just going to be in reverse, honestly. Okay, and this is really hard for me to do this way. So we're going to hold this down here, and I'll show you left-handed. Okay, we're going to do a purl stitch left-handed. So instead of going in from the right hand for a right-handed person, left-handed, you're going to go in from the left to the right. Okay, you're still going to take your yarn, counterclockwise wrap, and when you come back through, make sure you keep those needles in contact. Okay, and the stitch comes off the opposite way. Okay, I need this over this way. Okay, now we got it. Okay, because I'm doing a purl stitch, I hold it this way. All right, so for left-handed, do we have any left-handed knitters here? Okay, I'll be here off and on, Karen. If you need any other help, just hit me up with a message. Left-handed crochet. Oh, you're just putting me through the ringers today. This is the first time I've ever done left-handed. Well, not really left-handed, because I can operate the yarn with this hand, but doing the technique left-handed. We're still going to keep going with this row. Okay, not a problem. Go in from the left to the right. This is for left-handed knitters. And we're still going to counterclockwise wrap that. I feel like I'm doing color work now, because this is how I do when I do color work. I can't show you guys technically how I do this because I'm just learning now, trying to knit left-handed. I can knit backwards. I learned to knit backwards doing interlac knitting. We're going to keep this, and it's hard for me to hold my tension this way. All right. So I will be fixing. See that? I did that down on the lower end of the needle, and now I got to get that loose enough to do that. So tension for me on left hand would be a craziness. But we're doing it. We're doing it. Yeah, see? My brain doesn't want to let my fingers work the right way. And this is the left-handed knitting. Left-handed purl stitch. We're going to try left-handed knit stitch on the next row, so we see if we can't demonstrate that for anybody who's left-handed. Wanting to learn to knit has become a struggle. Oh, well, I hope I can help you with it. I really do. Like I said, if I don't know how to do it, and I'm trying to help any left-handed knitters out there to be able to see, how to work the stitches now that they saw how I held it in my hands, it would just be the opposite, but how I hold it in my hands might not be what's comfortable for you. That is dependent. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my stitches off the end, so I'm not allowing them to go forward. So that was just hit the camera. That was a row of purl stitches done with the left hand. Now we're going to turn our work back over as if we were left-handed people, and the yarn goes to the back for knit. So this ought to be fun. Oh, let's see. We have to go this way and to the back. For regular knit, we went to the left of the stitch. Now we have to go to the right of the stitch and through to the back. So now this hand has to hold, I'm all up in the camera now. This hand has to hold the tension and counterclockwise wrap. Oh, Now we got a real loopy stitch. I'm trying to watch this through the camera and I can't see what I'm doing. Hold on a second here. Counterclockwise. Is that counterclockwise? Yeah, counterclockwise. Then we have to hold this down this way. See, I can't fathom how to do that way left-handed, but that's basically how it would do. This hand does not want to hold tension. You would go in from this side and to the back, counterclockwise wrap, or maybe this way we want to do a clockwise wrap. Yes, for left-handed knitters you want to wrap clockwise. That's going to help me with the tension myself a whole lot. So, in from the left to the right and out the back. And we're going to do a clockwise wrap. That was counterclockwise again, wasn't it? Which way are we wrapping this? Clockwise. Hold it down. There we go. So that's basically how you would do it from the left hand. Okay. Hold that down from the back side to help with my tension a little bit. Just so you guys know that I am really serious about teaching everybody. We are going to put our brain through the works today. So, still working up on the upper ends of the needles as much as I can. Performing these stitches for the left-handed, and I'm probably doing it both ways. Yeah, I need to go the other way because it doesn't want to stay snug and come through for the left-handed knitter. And you can see now we've got a bunch of knit rows here. And you can see how it's different doing it from right-handed. These two rows down here were right-handed knitting. And the V's are kind of twisted to the back on this side. On this side here. And these are left-handed knitting and they're kind of twisted to the back on this side. So if you pay attention really to the stitching, you can actually tell if somebody was a left-handed knitter or a right-handed knitter, because the stitches will twist a different way. I don't know if you can see that as well as I can. These two stitches here match, and these two stitches match, and they kind of twist a little different. I don't know if you can see that. Ooh, I got a bunch of new comments here. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Yes, Marla, I am on every Tuesday morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, I am ever so happy that I could help you. Yes, and if you are left-handed and you are a left-handed crocheter, I will do my best. I'm going to have to practice to demonstrate this left-handed and right-handed. Left-handed might not be as good as far as tension-wise, but at least you can see the technique that is needed to do the stitch. Drop stitches, if it doesn't affect the pattern, I'm catching up on some of these questions here. Is there a way to fix drop stitches once a project is done? Yes. If the stitch does not affect the outcome, like a pattern, you can take that drop stitch to the inside and take other yarn and actually knot it to another stitch on the inside. And you then weave those ends in where you actually put that little knot in. And that'll take care of it once it's if your project is done. If not, and you have dropped a stitch, let me do a couple of rows here, and I will drop a stitch for you very quickly, and I will show you how to fix that since we're doing knitted panels here. And I'll show you how to fix that really quickly on a, just a straight knit panel. Oh, these stitches are a little tight. And that's got a lot of right and left. Let me come over here because I don't want to have those stitches all twisted up so you really can't see. And let me do a really quick little panel here. And I know that I'm missing some of these comments because I've stopped, but I'm glad that I've been able to help anybody that's left-handed. Crocheting left-handed might be fun. I have to make sure, because I know I'm going to laugh at myself. I'm going to make sure I have a dry tenna on. All of us older brothers will understand that reference. And I know I'm missing some comments here, but I'm trying to get a little panel done up so that I can demonstrate what you do with a drop stitch. And as you see here, I can get going pretty fast. Circular needles, I can fly because I'm not afraid of banging anything on the countertop. And I try not to bang things around because the dogs get stirred up and I don't want them barking and carrying on. And if I'm not expecting the bang, it scares the crap out of me. All right, let me do one more row here. 2 more because I want to do it on the knit side. And I'll show you how to pick that up. I can demonstrate how to pick it up on the knit side and how to pick it up on the purl side. That way you get it back with the stitches oriented the proper way, and you do it with a crochet hook. So if you're a knitter and you don't have at least a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, you should get one, because you can use that crochet hook to work your stitches back up. I wouldn't go any smaller. You could go bigger than that if you wanted to, but that, you know, will do worsted weight, lace weight, fingering weight. All right, now we have a knitted panel here. I'm going to pull some of these stitches over here, and I'm going to drop one off, and I'm going to put them back on like I dropped a stitch. Okay, we're going to say we dropped this one. We're going to just drop it right on off there. Put these back on here. And this will become just like nylons. Watch this. Oh no. It'll pull out just like, it'll run just like a nylon. Okay? Now, you're working along and you see that stitch and you're like, oh, we dropped a stitch. Let's fix this. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to knit whatever pattern you're doing, knit or purl. You're going to work your way over to where that stitch dropped, and you're going to be really easy because you don't want it to drop any further. Okay? So we're going to work right over to where that spot is. Okay? We see we're at that spot. We're going to take our handy dandy little crochet hook here, and we're going to grab that loop before it drops down any further. And we're going to go, what I'll do is I'll pull it up here a little bit so you can see it. And we're going to go right in through that with our hook straight up, just like that. We're not going to turn our hook down. We're going to turn it like this and go straight up. Grab that loop. So we're in there just like this. Okay? Now, from here, we have to make sure we don't drop this off. Oh, somebody else is trying to multi-guest or host, and I don't know who that is. I can't see that well. And it doesn't tell me the name. We're going to go, we need to make sure that we grab all of these bars underneath of here, okay? That's how many rows we've dropped down, 2 rows. So we're going to take our crochet hook underneath of that first bar, like that, and we're going to pull it straight through. Make sure I got it all the way through. And then just, you know, give it a little upward pull, okay? And then we're going to do it again underneath of this one. And we're going to pull straight through. And I know I got a lot of comments or a lot of joins, and I'm trying to get everybody's questions answered. Now, when you come back up here like this, you want to make sure that you get a hold of this leg, this one right here on this side. When you put it back over on this needle, you want to go in through the center of it. You don't want to come through the back. If you come through the back, you'll twist your stitch, and it won't be oriented like all the other ones. And there it is, right back on. And when you knit it like that, it comes right off the way all the others did. Now, if you put your stitch on through the back, okay, you'll notice, let's turn the stitch around like if we put it on through the back. You notice how it's already twisted? This is forward when it should be, let me show you the stitch here, it should be to the back, okay? You see, can you tell a difference in this stitch here? And I'm going to pull it off, I'm not going to knit it. And this one right behind it. Can you tell a difference between the way those two are? This piece here goes to this side, and it's not. This piece here that's coming from the back is going to this side, and this one's going to that. If you knit this one like this, I'll show you, it'll give you a different look to that knit stitch versus the one next to it. See how it twisted this? So that when I go and do this next stitch, you'll see a difference right there. I got 3 more stitches. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th stitch in. Let me knit the rest of this row and I'll show you a comparison of those stitches without pulling it apart. And that'll show you how, you see that one right there? To me it sticks out like a sore thumb. All these others, you see perfect little V's, and this one looks like it's twisted. You don't really see both sides of the stitch at the top. The other one's tucked back because it got twisted. Some patterns will have you twist the stitch like that because it's a design detail. But if you just want a flat, yeah. But that's how you would pick it up. Now let me catch up with everything here. We got more people joining in. Hopefully it's just, I haven't missed anybody's comments. I have no problem showing any of the skills that I have as far as yarn is concerned. I got a great job for being on for 90 minutes. Maddie, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Come back anytime if you have anything that you want to see. Well, Candy, I thank you very much. I want to make sure that I help everybody, even though I might be limited in being able to show you how to do tension left-handed. I can demonstrate it right-handed. You can kind of flip it over. I will kind of still show you on the left hand how I could hold it if it was in my left hand opposite of the right. I just want to make sure that, you know, everything is covered, that do my best to every question gets answered. I got so upset the other day on a live that as I ended, a comment popped up and then the live went off and I didn't even get to read the comment or see who sent it. And it really upset me because I thought, well, there was another one I could have helped and I'm gone, you know. So I want to make sure that I cover everything. If there's some aspect of it that confuses you, please let me know. Is that Brendan? You're a crocheter and you wanted to learn how to knit? I'm here to help you learn how if you're still here. I do have class Tuesday mornings from 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, a.m. I'm probably going to have to do a whole knit class too. A three stitch pass over and a yarn over. I would have to see that in reference to a pattern because I'm not quite sure what you mean by a 3-stitch pass over. ABC Kristen. If you have the pattern name, I can look at it. Let me see if I can't pull it up here on Pinterest. As far as stitches, I do know passing the slip stitch over, the PSSO abbreviation that they use in knitting. Let me see if I can find that here. And if it's actually called the 3-stitch passover. My eyes are getting wonky. probably almost like a slip stitch. Oh, this is an embossed stitch. That's pretty, if that's it. I have a 5K PSSO. My eyes are trying to focus. Let me see what that 5. Oh, that's just a slip knit passover. Are they slipping 3 stitches? ABC Kristen. Kristen, are you still here? We're going to try and do a 3-stitch passover and see if that's actually what she's looking for. I don't know if she's still here or if it's a little slow. We got a lot of people jumping in, jumping out probably. And I was demonstrating one and got behind on the comments. But normally when you pass a stitch over, it's always been a slip stitch. And it is actually a decrease. So if you slipped 3 stitches as if to purl and then went to the next stitch, and we're going to go ahead and follow through with the purl, and then of course you would have to take, and I don't know if they're individually passed over. You would have to take, and here I went out of camera frame. Let me come back into camera frame here real quick. And let me get this back out here. What I've done is I've slipped, get the string back here. I knitted these 3 stitches and then, or purled those 3 stitches. No, we knitted those 3 stitches. And then slipped 3 stitches. Okay. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to knit this one. And then if it's all 3 passed over like this, you just take and pass 3 of them over. And then of course I'm sure within that pattern repeat, you're going to have a yarn over in there somewhere. But it kind of gives you like a little bump because you've taken 3 stitches. If that's how it's done in the pattern, I'm not sure, because I would have to see it in context with the pattern. And it gives you like a little wave. Give you a little wave and a little bump in your fabric. Of course, I'm not going to view it on that side. Probably should have done it on the other side. Hold on. Let me get a couple more rows done, and we'll try that again on the knit side. Or actually, I'm going to scare y'all to death. This is what's called frogging. Because when you pull that through the loops, it says ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I just pulled that out, and we're going to pick these stitches back up. Some people go, gasp, when you pull the needle out like that. Okay, you think they're passed over together? All right, we'll do it over together. But normally when you are doing that, they are slip stitches. Let me do this purl row here, so we'll do it on the knit side so we'll get the full effect of what it looks like here. Do a purl row real quick. It's after 1:30. Hour and a half already with you guys. Look, time just flies by. And I'm just so happy. So happy. Now, another thing I want to show you. You see how these edges are all oof, oof, oof. I'll show you how to take care of that too. When you're doing your work, slip this first stitch. Especially if it's something that you're going to seam together, like a cardigan, or if it's a blanket, slip this first stitch. Next couple of rows, we're going to slip these first stitches, and I'm going to show you a difference. Don't even work them. But if it's counted as a stitch, like if you have to do 2 knits and then you're going to do a couple different stitches, that counts as 1 knit, okay? Always make sure you count the stitch even if you slip it on the edges. All right, so we're going to slip those 3 stitches as if to purl, because otherwise, you know, that's how you do it, or as you just slip them right on over because you don't want to twist them. You're going to knit the next stitch, and then what you're going to do, you're going to take your needle in front and you're going to catch all 3 of those stitches. You're going to hold this yarn here very tightly. And again, keep this needle pressed up against the other one. Keep your yarn tight, and you can see it coming through there on the other side. Still touching the needle coming through. And there's your 3 stitch passover. Okay. Now, I don't know if they are slip stitches or if they are supposed to be knitted and then passed over. That's why I asked pattern-wise what it said, because they might have been knitted and then passed over. That would be, we are supposed to slip that one. But, okay. I might not be able to do this for much longer today because everything is getting kind of crazy here body-wise. I don't know if we have any fibro warriors out there with me today, but that's what's taken over my health there, the fibro. And it looks like that. And you have effectively reduced by 3 stitches. So you can see that this is drawn in this way. Normally it has yarn overs and stuff in there as well, which will keep your stitch count the same, or the next row has increases to put your stitches back in there. Oh, we have another fibro warrior. Bless your heart. Is that non-amended? I think. I hope I didn't murder your page name there. But yeah, it messes with my eyes. Yeah, they are the beast. Oh my goodness, we have a bunch of us. No name needed. Okay, there we go. My eyes are very terrible, and I'm looking at it on still going through diagnosis. Well, honey, I hope that you find what you're looking for when you get diagnosed, because if you are in pain a lot and it's non-injury type pain, it is a nervous disorder. It is a nervous disorder. They tried to tell me in the beginning that it was just IBS. I had all kinds of symptoms. But yes, that's the 3-needle passover there. And I'm going to do a couple more rows up so you can actually see what slipping the first stitch actually does while we talk. And if there's any other stitches that anybody else would like to see, yes, love to all the fibro warriors out there. Much love and understanding. I think that's the worst part of it. That nobody else really understands how it really affects every aspect of your life. Yeah, my muscles and stuff are really starting to tighten up, and I'm probably getting ready, if I don't stop soon, to throw myself into a flare, and I'm going to have to go up and get in a hot tub. And I don't think I slipped all of those. No, I didn't. I think it was just that last one that I didn't slip. But we'll do a couple more rows here, and I can show you the edge. It'll make the edge nice and neat to have it slipped. What it actually does when you slip it is it pulls the lump out of it, because you're not doing that first stitch. It is stretching it up to the next row, and it'll actually look like 1 stitch for 2 rows. I'll show you that as well. But it does give you a nice, and it's only the first stitch of each row. Thank you so much, everyone, for the roses. Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that too. And that's when you just want to punch them in the soft spot and say, oh, well, if you can't see it, you can't feel it, right? I didn't see it, so you can't feel it. It was really hard for me to grasp in the beginning what was going on, because it really caused more of a cognitive issue with the brain fog and everything for me than anything else. I mean, pain, yes, kind of grew up with pain and just thought that, okay, my body's just had it and this is just what it is. And then till, my primary care doctor said, you need to go see a rheumatologist. And that's when I went. And you can see here that as I'm working too, it does curl up if you don't put a border on it, at least 3 stitches in. Sometimes when I'm working blankets, handmade blankets, not from pattern, just do a little texture cable or whatever, I'll do a garter stitch, 3 stitches in on each side, which is just knit the first 3 stitches of every row. And that keeps it from rolling. Counting knit. What kind of counting are you talking about? Row counting, I use a little digital row counter. As far as keeping your stitch count or your row count, it's easy to tell from your stitches how many rows you've done. I can show you how to count that. Counting stitches, it's just you have to count them. Some people will use stitch markers every 10 stitches. If you've got 300, 400 stitches, I would suggest every 10 to 25 stitches you mark off with a stitch marker. That way 25 stitches to each marker or 10 stitches to each marker. And if you can count 10 marker, 10 marker, you're good. If you can count 25 marker, then do it that many. It's hard to keep count. And it's a rolling joke in the crafting community that you don't interrupt a crafter while they're counting. I don't know if anybody's ever saw those memes and things out there like that. But again, I'll show you this edge here. It looks a little wonky. And each one of these matches up with every stitch along. Okay? Now, I hope that I did every stitch here. Let me double check and see. Yes, we did. On this side. You can see how these are elongated, and each one covers 2. Looks like they cover 2. This one covers 2. This one here, if you look at this one here, and I'll point it out specifically if I can get it to focus in for me again. This one long stitch right here covers 2 stitches here. So you can see how it's stretched up to cover the 2 stitches because you slipped the first stitch on the edge. And it gives you, see the edge here you've got here? Nice, flat, neat edge versus this which is rolled over. Let's give you that edge. Can you tell the difference? Knit the first stitch, slip the first stitch. So if you can't keep your stitch count between the stitch markers, you might be dropping stitches or you might be knitting 2 stitches together by accident. Can you use a marker? What do you mean a marker? I don't know what you mean by asking, can you use a marker? Yeah, you can put stitch markers in there if you want. Yeah, you can count 10 stitches and then put a stitch marker and then count 10 more stitches and put a stitch marker. That way you can keep up with your count if you need to. Now, if you are, say your pattern says you got to do 10 knit stitches and then you do 2 purls, you're just going to have to count 10 stitches. Once you get the 10 done, if you're not sure, this is what I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll count them right there on the needle. Some days I have issues counting, and that's just the fibro, my brain not processing what I want it to process as it should. But I don't have any recommendations for being able to count your stitches easier. Show how to use a stitch marker. Oh, for counting stitches? It's just going to isolate and mark off a certain number of stitches. That's all. I have all different styles of stitch markers here. I have ones that look like little diaper pins. I have ones that you use for amigurumi that you can slip in and out of the stitches because it is open. You see there, it's just a swirl, so you can just stick it in. You can stick it into the stitches like this. And it slides in and out for doing amigurumi real quick. You don't have to open it and close it. And again, you can just put that up on your needle, right? And that has isolated off 3 stitches by itself. Then if you want to know how you would use it in knitting, because you got the stitch marker in there, because I might not be understanding your question properly, let's go ahead and slip this one so we keep that nice edge going. When you come to your stitch marker on your needle, you just slide it over on the other side and keep going. Now, that stitch marker isn't going to help you keep count. You should know how many stitches you have in between each marker. You're still going to have to count them. So I don't know if this helped. You just slide the stitches along the needle. And like I said, I have a project over here that might help explain a little bit better. And I'll put it up here just to show you. Try not to get it all tangled up though. So I think I just passed that yarn right through the middle of it. And this is the one that I've got on the... take that off. And we're in the middle here. Give me just a second here, because I now have this all tangled up. It's like tangled up around my needles. All right. That's really tangled up. Okay, we got that one untangled. Now I got another skein of yarn, because it's actually a double knit blanket that I'm working on, that I'm helping someone else with, and I'm all tangled up around my cable needles. This one here on my pattern, it has got, I'm doing it from a graph, and this is double knit, dark on one side, light on the other, working both sides at the same time. Oh, Mad Love, welcome back. Welcome back. And you're asking, we need to know what a lifeline is. I'll show you all of that too. Once we get done with the stitch counters, the stitch markers here. Okay, let's stop right here. I'm doing this off a graph, and in the graph, I have 5 stitches per block, per line. And I've got because double knit, 5 stitches is 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches. Every 10 stitches, I have a stitch marker. I don't know if you can see that, and it goes all the way around. So that way, I'm keeping track of 10 stitches every marker. Those 10 stitches should come out proper every marker, because I'm going off a graph. That helps me keep track of my graph. It helps me keep track of making sure I've got all 10 stitches done, because there's 396 stitches on there, and I don't want to have to go back 396 stitches, because I come to the end and I have 5 more stitches to do and I only have 2 stitches left. So it just helps me keep track of, and I'm going to keep one of these out here for the Lifeline demo. It helps me keep track of my stitches I go through, because I know some of you crocheters too, you work through a whole line of stitches and it doesn't come out right, and you're like, okay, where's the problem? And if you've only got 4 or 5 stitches, it's no big deal to look back through. But if you've got 396 stitches and you're on 394 and you got to go all the way back through all those stitches to find out where the problem is, having it blocked off every so often to check at that point, it just makes it a checkpoint where you have to stop and count those stitches back prior and make sure that it goes okay. Now, a lifeline, they use lifelines when you do color work or pattern work to where you're putting texture. It's just so if you make a mistake and you have to take this off the needles and pull back, your lifeline will hold your stitches, and I will show you how that works. I want to take some corresponding colored yarn so you can see. And I didn't want to pull it from that end. Let's find out where the end of this is. And I'll show you real quick a lifeline. I'm going to use a bigger yarn needle. That one's too small. A lifeline you will put in along a string of stitches that you know from here all the way down, everything is correct. You'll take your yarn needle with yarn on it, and you will go and right up underneath all these loops, make sure you only catch the loop. You don't want to catch any of the other fibers. You'll have a hard time getting it out. So take your time doing this, and I'm going to go ahead and take the stitch marker off of here because it's going to be in my way. Keeping this all to the front. I get it stretched down here right. I can go right through all of them. Okay. And then that just sits right in there. Okay. Oh, we've done something here. What did we do? That's the other piece. Okay. Now I'm going to trim this down a little bit because this is just waste yarn and I just want to get this out of my way here. Set that over there. This here holds your stitches. You can see that line of string in there. You can do it with sewing thread, any type of waste yarn, but you want to make sure that it is at least the same size or smaller than what you're doing. Okay? And then when you go and do your next row, you just kind of keep that out of your way. Our next row is going to be a purl row. So I'm going to go ahead and just purl. Is it a purl row? Yeah, there's my thing. I'm going to go ahead and purl this row. The heck? What did we do? Hold on a second. Okay. I was through the wrong way. We are going to purl this row, and we're going to make sure that we keep that. Well, that's why it's not purling, because we're knitting. That's why it didn't look right. Okay, see, I have issues sometimes too. We're going to purl through here, and we're going to make sure that we don't catch that yarn. Okay? We don't want to weave that into our fabric, because when we do another 4 or 5 rows, everything's good. We're going to move that lifeline up to that row. And I'm going to show you what a lifeline will help you do. Earlier, I know you all saw me just pull the stuff off the row and pull stitches back. That will stay down in that row that you put it in. Okay? It'll just sit right there. You can go ahead and knit a couple more rows. I'm going to knit one more row, and let's say we made the mistake, and this is like 10 rows above our lifeline. I'm not going to do 10 rows because it's going to take a little bit too long, just for the discussion, because I already got 59 new messages in here, and I'm trying to get to everybody today. Okay? Say we made this is like 10 rows up from the lifeline, and we have to pull this out. Okay? If you're doing cable work, write down the row number that you put this lifeline in on, and you'll know when you go pull it back, you have to go to that row to start over again, that was the row that you done completed. Okay? But you just take your needles right out, take your working yarn, not your lifeline, take your working yarn and pull it. Once you get to that lifeline, it's not going to let you pull any more stitches. It's a safety net for knitters. Okay? Then you just take your needle and put it right back in those stitches. And the first one, because you pulled it, you'll have to loosen it up a little bit to be able to get it back in here. But see it right there over top of the pink? You just grab that right there, put it back on your needle, and then resize it. And then you can pull your lifeline out, start knitting again, leave your lifeline in, keep going. Once you know you're okay, put your lifeline back in. This is for projects that might be a little more complicated, that you are almost positive that you're going to make some mistakes on. Lace work, it's best to have a lifeline, because when you pull it back, and that lace work just decides to let go and it runs like a nylon, you've lost rows and rows and rows of pattern. So for pattern rows, it's good to use a lifeline. I don't always, and I kick myself in the butt for not doing so. So that's a lifeline. All right, let's scroll on down here. Mad Love, glad you're back. Courtney. Okay, I'll try to remember that. I'm not really good with remembering names, but stick around and hang out with me. I'll remember who you are. I'm trying to catch up. I think most of this is just new people coming in. Want to make sure I didn't miss any comments or questions. Anybody else have any questions at this point? Oh, still got a lot of people. How's the life? Welcome back. Yeah, it looks like everybody's just, yeah. Was just joining comments. Let me know who came in. But yep, that's what a lifeline is, and that helps that out. But I have been on here for 2 hours almost now, and I think it's time for me to take a little break. Probably won't be back today. I want to do a little bit of work here. Oh, Home Hooking, how are you? I was just getting ready to head out, and you come in. Might stay for a little longer. We got friends here now. We're having so much fun today. Lots of comments, lots of comments. We're just doing a little bit of a knitting tutorial, almost like a class type thing. Whatever you holler out, I will knit. Yes, Home Hooking, I'm so jealous. She's got a new puppy. Makes me want to get in the car and go to way out there where you are, just to play with the puppy. Oh, I know the kids are having a blast with with the little puppy, aren't they? They all right front and center. Oh. But yeah. Anybody else have any knit questions? Anything else? Welcome, Christy. Welcome, welcome. Oh, yes, they love her to death. I'm sure they do. Wait till they start asking for her to have a little sister. There's still some left next door, aren't there? Okay. Well, we don't have any more knitting questions. Oh, no. Yeah, you will. So I'm going to go ahead and end for today. Sorry to have you jump in. Yes, I do a regular class Tuesdays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do it a little bit of knit and a little bit of crochet, kind of both. Do an hour of each. It does kind of go over a little bit, so I've been doing some lives throughout the week to kind of, help others that aren't on that same schedule. So that's why I was on here today. Double knitting, I can tell you double knitting is like knitting two pieces at one time. They're done at the same time. I do have that going on over here with the, I don't know if you've seen it. It is on Pinterest, the Lord of the Rings double knitted blanket. Double knitted, it's really squishy, spongy feeling. You work with two colors at the same time. And I can do some demonstration on this too, but not today. As far as brioche knitting, I have not done brioche knitting. And I know that Home Hooking hasn't done double knitting, but I think she's done brioche. Have you done brioche, Home Hooking? Brioche is one of the things that I want to learn how to do. Okay, Self-Made Melanie, when you pick up your knitting, a knit stitch is going to look like little V's. You can see these little V's here. And I have a panel here that I can show you those on. Let me get that straight. You see the stitch here on your needle. You can see the little V stitches underneath. These are knit stitches. Now, a purl stitch will look like this. It's got a little, I call it a little dash underneath the stitch. This is a purl stitch. And to tell which stitch you need to do, wherever your yarn is at, that's the last stitch you did. So if you're over here like this and you're looking at this, this is the last stitch you did. So you have to turn it around and look at it like this. Or if you're left-handed, it'll be over here. But yeah, you have to turn it over and look at where this stitch is coming out of. That's the next stitch that you need to do after laying down, even if it's in the middle. Wherever this yarn is, that's the stitch that you've done. And if you have stitches over here, you have to do those. And you just look at this under here, and this little dash will be a purl stitch. Knit stitch looks like this. Okay? Another way you can tell which stitch you need to do is this one's coming from the back side. So yes, you definitely will be doing a purl stitch on the next row, unless your pattern dictates that that's supposed to be a knit. It will depend on the pattern too. Okay? Oh, I know. Oh, you are so very welcome, Marla. I'll see you Tuesday. And user 597, I'll see you Tuesday as well. Thank you guys for all the likes, for coming and joining me today. We are going to go ahead and end here. And I probably will have all of this still laying out here tomorrow because I need to go and take care of myself here so the rest of my evening can be just as good as the beginning of today. I thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate you coming out and helping me to fulfill my dreams, and I'm hoping that by you fulfilling mine helps me fulfill yours. So have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Definitely I will be here sometime during the day. But definitely Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bring your crochet hook. Bring your knitting needles. And definitely bring your yarn. And until then, happy crafting.